Good morning, sports fans. How is everybody today? You know, nice, lovely roll tide to K. Blair.
Roll Tide.
He did that fantastic intro that we've got there, and we thank him greatly for that. Hang on a second. I'm getting some. I am getting some feedback here. Hang on a second.
You sound good on this end.
Okay.
Later here.
I just had the YouTube stream was working over there. So, all right. Wow. Yesterday, wow.
Yeah. We gotta just exhale.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to start with yesterday's ball game. I'm gonna do a quick go down of the numbers, guys, and then we got a lot to dig into. So essentially, the one thing before I even go into the numbers that we have to take away from this as fans of the game, as fans of Alabama, is that in every metric, Florida was better yesterday except for score and turnovers.
As I was going to say, two metrics that we
turnovers.
won.
That turnover probably saved us the game. That turnover probably saved us the game. But let's get to it here. Bryce, 22 for 35, 3 touchdowns, 240 yards. Top rusher was Brian. Not that there's much to talk about rushing yesterday. Top rusher Brian Robinson, 15 carries for 78, long of 23 with a touchdown. Jace McClellan, 9 of 17, long of 5. And of course, Bryce ate some turf, 4 carries, -4 yards with his longest 7. 91 yards rushing total. Receiving, the hero of the day was Jamison Williams, 4 for 61 with a long of 29. Mechie, 6 for 49, long of 12. Jace McClellan, 4 for 41 with a TD and long of 18. Billingsley, 1 for 26 with a TD. Latu, 2 for 19, long of 10. Slade Bolden, whom we'll come back to, 3 for 19, long of 15. Earl, 1 for 18, long of 18, obviously. And B-Rob, 1 for 7 with 1 touchdown. No fumbles. Defense, that's a list as long as my arm, but your highlights probably would be Mathis and Smith both had an assist on a sack, which was our only sack. We did have 7 tackles for loss, so take that going away. We did have an interception. Armour Davis had a pick, which we got a touchdown off of the ensuing drive for that. So, Jess, you said there would be a pick for a score, so I'll give you that one. I'll give you half a point on that one. Okay.
Yeah, that's about right. I get like the half a sack that Smith and Fly got. Yeah.
Yeah. Long kick return yesterday, 30 yards by Williams. No punt returns because Florida didn't have to punt. Will Reichard, 1 field goal. Thank you, Will. You and the Ints probably did. Well, there's no question you did save the game there. Burnett looked good on punting, I thought. I hated that we had to rely on him so much, but the kid's got a leg. I got no complaints about the kicking. So that's the tale of the tape. But yeah, in just about every metric, Florida beat us. I say just about. We were more penalized, 11 for 81. We had a shorter possession time, which I don't freak out so much about the shorter possession time. Last year, some of our romper stomper victories, we just didn't keep the ball as an offense that often. We didn't have to. Mac dropping.
Well, yeah, you don't have to when you score in 32 seconds on 2 plays.
Yeah. So, Mac dropping 3 dimes, bam, 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 in, 40, 50 seconds. It's not time of possession is not a great metric. But yes, I would, in the words of the great philosopher regarding this game in Alabama, struggle win. So I've run my trap long enough. Let's go around the table. Gurley, you're awfully quiet over there.
That's okay. I'm still asleep. So this team, yeah, this was a scary game. Everybody was talking about Ole Miss being a trap game. This was definitely a trap game. Florida, good team, more physical than I expected them to be. A lot more physical than I expected them to be. A lot better of a running game than I expected. We were far worse in the defending the run than I expected us to be. The offense, they look young. The offensive line still needs some work. We may need to shift some personnel around there. We got to have an answer at center and right tackle. The defense, we've got to be more physical in the secondary. They were not fighting off blocks as aggressively as they were against Miami, and they were not tackling well. We've got to get better, both of those. Secondary's got to improve against the run.
You'll get no arguments from me on that. KB, what do you got?
So one of the things that I don't know if no one has said it, but I haven't heard or read anybody said it, is the missed extra point that Florida had early in the game was the key to us in the game at the end. Was to stop on the 2-point conversion, because if they make that extra point, Florida doesn't try to go for 2 on that touchdown. They just kick the extra point, and that's a totally different game at that point. So overall, I just put Owens back at center. I don't understand why we're still playing with lineup at this point in the game. How many 5-stars do they have sitting on the bench that could play right tackle? I'm just asking. There's at least 2 that I'm aware of.
Them, please. Damien George looked good a few weeks ago. Maybe they can try him. I agree. I'd like to see Owens move back inside. Frustrated.
Yes. So the offensive line needs to get. They need to get their act together. They're still playing like they've never played snaps together, and it's frustrating. It just seems to me like Florida ran through us like shit through a tin horn, right? I mean, you could replay that, the answer to that question that Saban gave for yesterday's game. I think one of the keys was that it didn't seem like we made any adjustments at halftime, and Florida came out and just played a completely different game. They came out and said, you know what, we're going to play option football for the entire second half. And how many passes did they throw in the second half? It was just a handful. So, but overall, I mean, they did what they had to do to get out with the W. And that is that's the name of the game: survive and advance, especially in the SEC. So I am very concerned about Ole Miss, and I am really concerned about Arkansas, because Arkansas gets off the bus running the ball. And if our run defense doesn't tighten up, then Arkansas is 300 yards, and it's not going to be pretty. That's what I think.
All right, Jess, hit us where it hurts.
All right, I got a lot of stuff. Like, I got some film and some stats. So we're going to start with the stats, and the stats are actually pretty positive in this respect. I have some stats that aren't so positive later, so we don't fill up on rat poison. So Alabama has now won 32 consecutive against the SEC East. The last time they lost, of course, was 2010 in the Garcia game, which was 3,998 days ago. So it's going to reach a 4,000 game streak, which I think is pretty cool. Florida became the sixth team to rush 250 against Nick Saban Alabama team. Of course, Ole Miss has done it the last two years, and Ohio State actually did it before that in the Sugar Bowl. There's something notable about all of this, too. So I was looking at the film a little bit. There was the speed option that was the concern to me that I noticed. And when we look at the speed option, we're looking at the quarterback reading an unblocked defensive end or an outside linebacker. And then, of course, this is standard RPO if they're going to pick it or they're going to take off upfield. Now, for a speed option, on the side of the line where the option develops, the tackle or if the or the tight end, if it's run to the strong side, they're going to immediately break to block at the second level. That leaves the defensive end, because that's why you sometimes saw Will Anderson unblocked. Oh, why are they leaving him unblocked? Because it's a speed option. And that leaves the defensive end in a four-man front or outside linebacker in a three-man front unblocked. So what the quarterback does from there is going to read the unblocked defender. If the defender heads straight toward the quarterback, and that is Will Anderson's MO, so that often happens. So that's why you saw a lot of picks to the running backs. Because Will Anderson, as good as he is, he kind of tells that a lot because he's so good at it. Mm-hmm. And then when the running back does that, they'll attempt to turn the corner and head upfield. Now, if the defender tries to seal off the running back in the outside lane, you have the quarterback keeper and scamper up the field in the crease. And where does that happen? It happens between the tackle and the tight end and the wide receivers. Now, they don't have Pitts, and Pitts wasn't too great as a blocker, but Keon Zipper isn't quite that. I think there's some good and there's some bad to take away from this game, right? Because, really, Young is in his first true road start. He had a very solid game, I think, by points per drive, and that's something that we got to look at. If you take away the clock-killing drive to end the second quarter, I didn't like that, but you take that out because they really didn't try to do anything. They had 3.44 points per drive yesterday. That would have ranked fifth in the Power 5 last season. And, of course, the all-time record is Alabama last year at 4.41. It's just insane to me with an all-SEC schedule, but, you know, look at it, though. This is not a team that's going to bludgeon everyone, comparatively to 2020, right? Defense has some holes. There are some tough games. But consider the fact that all these mistakes happen. They beat number 11 on the road. The crowd was that loud. This is not a finished product. Yes, it's supposed to be everyone when they take the field, but I think we can take solace from the fact that despite these mistakes, and there were plenty of mistakes, I thought Bill O'Brien was very slow to adjust defensive play calling. I know a lot of people say, oh, it's the trenches. Yes, it's the trenches, and there's a little bit slow of an adjustment. These things can both be true. I think it was more the trenches, but I'm not discounting that. So advanced box score, I'm looking a little bit at something like that with post-game win expectancy. This is by CFB numbers on Twitter, and post-game win expectancy was 91.2% for Florida. Alabama had a little bit better success rate. You might see that on Balloons on Robama Roll, which was a little bit better for Alabama at 49.2% to Florida's 47.1%. Explosive rate, play rate, definitely favored Florida at 31.4%. Alabama's 25.4%. I'm really concerned with, and Eric Evans had mentioned this in the comments of the initial impressions on Robama Roll when the Great Raiders there. This is a very static, square offense, and that's not on the personnel. That's on Bill O'Brien for not invoking creativity, double routes, motion within the game. He's calling the game like it's still like 2012. That was a great year, but like it's not how you call a game now. You can't be that stationary. You can't be that predictable. And the thing is, it's ultimately hurting what Bryce can do with mobility in the pocket. Like, I mean, you talk about that touchdown that he could have run in instead of throwing just outside of Latu for the touchdown.
Yes.
Well, I mean, again, if he trusts his line more, if he has more creativity within the routes, you probably see a more fluid throw. You probably see Latu coming across on the out rather than being out of bounds in that case. You probably see him more available to rush in because it is less obvious what the routes are going to be. Right now, I can script these routes pretty straightforward, and right now, I think they need to run more 12. I think they had to run it. I think they were really conservative in what they were play calling, and there was absolutely no reason with the game on the line consistently like that. It's just frustrating to see that once Billingsley, he had that great touchdown. I think it was funny because you had a guy basically juked out of his shoes, and then Billingsley whiffs like a few drives after that, and he whiffs a terrible block that winds up blowing in the backfield. He doesn't get any more snaps. Why? Our wide receiver group is not nearly as good as it was when we had 4 first-rounders on the team. You're telling me when our best skill position and we're still running 11, why? That just doesn't match with what we have. I mean, Bill O'Brien historically has run 12 offenses in New England when he was there. He had Aaron Hernandez. He had Rob Gronkowski. But you're telling me we're going to set Jabril Billingsley or Cameron Latu a vast majority of the time? I mean, why? Like, even if one's in there to block, you have to at least respect that their ability to catch the ball is out there. Set them in on a chip. Do something. It was just a one-dimensional offense. That's not Bryce's fault. I thought Bryce Young looked very good, but when you're being that uncreative offensively, it's going to catch up to you. There's only so much you can do.
Is it possible that he's just not calling plays because he's saving it for later? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
what you would,
I think I think you're right, and unfortunately right. I wish they hadn't been doing that. No, I think you're totally right.
Well, Gurley, unless you had something to step in to
My
say.
other thought actually is that we're unveiling the offense that we're good at right now. I agree with, and I'm sorry. It's going to take me more evidence, a lot more evidence, to concede a point to Eric.
We're all going to agree that, just for the sake of my sanity, that he's not going to be right about the Ole Miss game. I mean, I'm concerned about, but that's just how I'm getting through the week right now. So,
yeah, Bo had another point, and I'm concerned about all the games, but I'm concerned about the Ole Miss game. But I am right now more concerned about the Arkansas game. That's my trap game for the season. But yeah, my thought is maybe this is the offense that this team knows how to run at this point. I mean, you see the problems we're having at offensive line. You see how young our wide receiving core looks. Maybe this is what we can run and run well. And by the way, Jess, that was the most intelligent meltdown I have ever heard. Congratulations to you.
Can we get Jess a whiteboard?
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like three cheese building out here, a little bit with the red wine and everything, but I'm still building on a panini.
Yeah, I live down to my handle, but yesterday I was dry during that. Like, I was like, okay, yeah, when I come back from the half, man, I'm gonna pour myself a pint and put my feet up. I wouldn't have enjoyed it. I had mine after. I would not have enjoyed it during that game. That much stress on top of some cold Guinness. But look, so the high tide point in the game for me, it was the end. It's just that simple. It was the end. Well, I'm going to tie it. I'm going to say the defense finally firming up and stopping that just weird looking 2-point attempt. It was like, it made me physically uncomfortable to watch that. Like, just very awkward. Like, if you saw two people doing that, you'd turn away because you would assume that something unsavory was about to happen. So yeah, those were the high tide points. Low tide. Let me address an open letter here. there's a standard of football that you expect when you see young men go out and they're a year from a hopeful entry into the NFL. Dropping a football that my fat 51-year-old self could have caught every time and twice on Sunday, I don't know, man. Oh gosh, that you guys know what I'm talking about, right? I mean,
of course.
It just
That was painful to watch.
Yeah.
I felt
It was
bad
like
for him.
unbolden out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The anti-Bolden, the Bolden from the Mirror Universe. Check him for a goatee and an eye patch. Slade, buddy, have fun carrying that medicine ball around this week. That's all I've got to say about that. That was the low light.
Well, I'll tell you what's going to happen a little later today. They're all going to have film study all together, and they're going to get to that play, and they're going to back it up and rewind it probably somewhere around 10 times. And everybody's going to rib him, and he's going to slink down in his seat, and then he's going to go out and go catch 200 balls on the jugs machine, and he's going to get better. He's going to be too embarrassed to not work on it.
He's going to have
a film study works.
He's going to have a football-shaped callus in his midsection by midweek. I promise you.
I just hope he still has fingers left by the Southern Miss game.
Right.
I mean, honestly, they're going to have to call my italicized or underline. No more Bolden after this.
Yeah. Italicized. I see what you did there. We jumped to an intelligence standard around here, folks. So, and I would say, I mean, honestly, it's hard to pick an elephant stomp moment. Guys, I'm going to talk about mirror universes and anti this and that and the other. Guys, we damn near got beat by a playbook that was straight out of 1981. Option, 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 screen, TD. Option, 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 screen, TD. That frustrated and, quite frankly, worried me. When you can go out there with a game plan that Bear Bryant would have been absolutely comfortable defending against and beat the pants off of us the way Florida did, there are some deep-seated issues. I can't, maybe I'm being overly cynical, but there's my high tide, there's my low tide. The only elephant stomping that I saw yesterday was the elephant getting stomped.
How many pass interference penalties did we get called against us yesterday?
Oh, don't, man. That's...
You mean how many real ones or how many phantom ones?
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's the point. I mean, they did a few YOLO passes that got well defended, and then all of a sudden the laundry would come out. And to be fair, they did it on both sides. They called that game very close.
Yes, they did.
Game. Very close. I mean, you would look at the guy wrong, and there's a flag coming out. And I think that kind of affected the mentality of this team, and they were trying to back off because of the penalties.
I felt like we got zebraed a couple of times, and I'll tell you why. And this is kind of a conspiracy theory. I should have a soundboard and key up the X-Files theme here. I think it's pretty obvious, and that when refs make a bad call, they try and fix it. Shit, we let that go. Okay, all right. Well, maybe if one kind of goes that way. I feel like we got zebraed a couple of times because of a PI call that, to be fair to Florida, I mean, look, let me just pause for a moment on that and say this. I have nothing but respect for Florida, for Dan Mullen and his team. They played 60 minutes of football yesterday. We played maybe 35 minutes of football yesterday. So there was a pretty sketchy PI call that the flags came out on, and I feel like for at least 2 PI calls after that, we got zebraed hard. And I said on Discord, look out. We're going to have to fight ref ball now. And I was right. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, we would have done better if it wasn't for the refs. No, we would have done better if we had done better. But when you're fighting another football team and an assistant squad of refs on occasional plays, it does get more difficult.
So my takeaway from that is it only takes us 35 minutes to beat Florida and the refs.
Fair enough. Okay. But
and
look,
it takes another 2 minutes to beat the clock, apparently.
Yeah, apparently that was.
Yeah. Oh,
so that was my low tide moment, even though it wasn't on us. It was just like, how do you what? It was. I felt like, and I said this in the Discord. I felt like it was watching soccer. How much time is left? Nobody knows. You guys just keep playing. It's like, holy crap. And then it's like, okay, well, they finally at least started updating the clock in between plays. But there for a while, it was like, oh, nobody even knows what's happening.
Yeah, wasn't it convenient that the clock was broken when it was a down to the wire? Golly, University of Florida.
I had that thought, but I'm like, certainly not. I mean,
No, get it out there. We got to a standard around here.
Okay, so I don't know who operates the clock. Is it a University of Florida person or is it a SEC person? Oh, is it an official? Go ahead.
No, that's the back judge. That's the back judge. So the back judge today was Ron Turner. He did the Missouri's first game of the year. It's someone not employed by, not at all employed by Florida. That is a league thing. Okay. And
yeah,
Ron
so
Turner,
I figured it was. Yeah. So that was my low tide moment. My elephant stop was when the defense bowed up and stopped the 2-point conversion. I'm giving Florida half credit for that because what kind of a play call was that? But still, I think if I had to pick a high tide, it would be the touchdown to Billingsley. There's just not a lot to pick from for that. So
I don't know. At the end of that first quarter, I thought we had this game well in hand, but there's to Florida's credit, they got down. They didn't quit. They just started. They kept fighting back, and they adjusted their offensive play calls and found something that worked and came close to pulling it out. Although I will say, 5 total drives in the whole second half by either team is one of the weirdest stat lines I have ever seen.
Yeah, everybody wants to jump on Bill O'Brien for the way he called the game, but honestly, from just an overall start to finish, he did what needed to be done in the second half to limit the number of drives and drain the clock and come out with the win. Now, was that what he was trying to do? I can't say, but that's what ultimately happened.
Yeah, he he was able to consume 14 minutes with 3 drives, including one with 1 first down and a punt. But that, Florida, it was that they found what worked. The only problem is what worked for them is they had to grind it out. And, as much as we're wanting to criticize Alabama's defense, Alabama did not give up the big play, and they made them earn every single point. and they had to grind it out and take a lot of time. That's that's a positive that we can take away from this on this defense. They did not give up the big play, and they did not break. They just bent a whole lot.
Yeah. Oh boy, did they bend. But no, I gotta be kind of positive about that. And go with you on that one, Gurley, because they did. They firmed up. They were intransigent on that fourth down, icky, like uncomfortable.
They
looking.
were what? I'm from Gurley. What were they?
I'm sorry. They were tough. They were unyielding.
Intransimist. Sorry.
If you guys don't know, Bill's a
Gurley,
walking
I apologize.
thesaurus.
And I'll say this regarding criticisms of Bill O'Brien, just very tongue-in-cheek. If you don't read RollBamaRoll.com, how did you find us? But Eric Evans, the running joke over on RBR is that Nick Saban has somebody read RBR for him and then takes our advice. If that was the case, Eric's post on the post-game thread last night would probably send Bill O'Brien into witness protection.
That was you know what? That was the best meltdown. It was epic. Eric the Epic. There we go.
Fire Eric. But yeah, that was whew. Hats off to you, Eric. Hats off because they were blown off.
Oh man! So
I can't repeat the word. We would get kicked off of YouTube if I went down his laundry list. Wow. But I'm going to agree with one of his bullet points. Pete Golden couldn't cover the same play in 3 quarters. It goes back to what I said. Florida ran a 1981 playbook against us. And Golding had no answers for it. Why?
I'll tell you why. He was too young to have seen those plays.
Am I wrong here? Am I completely wrong? And for those folks waiting for a top 25 and other, yes, we'll get to them. We're hurting right now, people. We're hurting. I told you, prepare for meltdowns. Am I missing something? I'm just going to throw this out to the group. Am I missing something when I say that, or oversimplifying, that Florida ran a 1981 offense against us and damn near beat us with it? Because
they ran the Dan Mullen offense with heavy on, Dan Mullen's offense, in case you don't remember Mississippi State or those Florida offenses with Tim Tebow, a lot of power running. And, then they have the fast guy to get to the edge. And it was hard to defend then. And looks like maybe we just weren't ready for that for some weird reason. Or we were expecting them to throw the ball all over the field. But they executed it well, especially in the second half. So I thought
a lot of it went to the defensive line. So disappointing. The Battle of the Trenches yesterday was absolutely my low point, the low tide for this week. Aside from Slade Bolden really dropping the bread. Like honestly, he can't expect Butterfinger to contact him about NIL rights and use that play. I swear to God. High point though, special teams. This was a very good special teams game for Alabama in ways people didn't look at because it didn't get pretty after that, but that's not the fault of the special teams. Will Reichard and getting the ball to the 1, even though normally that'd be fair caught, that is wonderful positioning in case someone isn't alert like that when that happens, right? Because we all thought that was going to be a game of field position. They were going to get the stop on 3rd and 10, and then they were going to start probably from maybe midfield at that point. It didn't happen, but that all starts from a really successful kickoff. Big ups to Will Reichert. That was a great thing to see.
Agreed.
And Nyland Hibbert on the final punt, right? Because this kid does not come in. He's not been a long snapper for long. He's not had many starts, because Fletcher's been so good over the years. But that easily could have sailed over Burnip's head. That easily could have been a turnover. He was completely calm and cool and collected on the final punt, and that was completely necessary. It was a little thing that went a long way. I've seen so many games from so many teams where that just goes completely wrong, and that's just the accentuation to it. And instead, nobody noticed it, which is why I think it is so notable. And I think that, to me, actually is really an elephant stomp, because special teams are so variable at this level, right? We always say, oh, college kickers. We had 8, by the way, I put this in my notes because it's relevant to today. Did you know that we had 8 FBS teams mixed in extra point, by the way? I mean, it's the little things like this. I mean, I realize we're talking about extra points versus long snaps, but so much can go wrong, and this all went right. And it's not being talked about, which is a good thing.
Yeah. No. I honestly, I didn't know. I did not think about. I did not think about special teams playing, and it's a failing on my part for not looking at the holistic game yesterday. But I mean, you're right. I think getting caught up in the emotion of seeing the team not play to what we felt like was a standard that they should have. And then when you think about it, yeah. And it's not Reichert's fault that our defense couldn't stop a 99-yard march.
I was going to say 99 yards.
99-yard march. If they could have, then yeah, we would probably be talking a lot more about, hey, remember when, and what a great series that was started by Reichert's amazing kick. But yes, Jess, you know what? Absolutely. That was that was definitely a high tide moment for the game, and giving that and the punt, giving them each half of the elephant stomp. I amend what I said. There's your elephant stomp moments, because at least in the case of the punt, that probably was one of the elements that saved us the game. It really was.
So, can anybody remember the last special teams bad snap that Alabama has had? I can't remember one.
It had to be like
very long
5 years ago, right? 6. I mean, Fletcher was so good for so long that we're just entitled little shits. Oh, sorry.
Oh, we are, and that's why we melt down when we just barely win.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, because I know there was a bad snap in the Iron Bowl in 2017, but that was not a long snap. That was just the center at that point.
I can't remember a bad special team snap in a long time, and you know what? That says something about the quality of long snapper Alabama has had over the last 12, 13 seasons.
I mean, Cole Mazza was great. He's doing a great job these days, I believe. I'm not sure he's still there. Yeah, because Cole Mazza, I think he did a great job with the Chargers the past few years. He's not there now. Fletcher is unfortunately out for the year in Carolina, but it's consistently Long Snapper University. Unfortunately, that's a very unfortunate acronym, so I'm not going to say it, but yeah, I mean, continuously, they churn out these guys, and it's always really good. And I think it's really helped with the communication with the kickers, right? Because we've seen since Papanastos that Bolivar was still pretty good, right? Because, I mean, granted, he's with Vanderbilt now, but Reichert consistently has, I think, the best form I've ever seen from a kicker at this level. It's simple, it's fast, and it's compact. And the reason I say compact is because if you're kicking wider, think of like your kicker as being a hitbox for like an enemy, like in a video game. If you're wider, that means it's more places to get hit and more places for the kick to be messed up.
Yeah, and I had a thought there, but it fled. It saw whose head it was in and fled. Now,
It's okay, Bill. It happens to
Unlike
all of us
snaps
as we get older.
It
yeah.
happens. Yeah.
No, I will say that Will Reichert is a joy to watch play, and all the jokes about Alabama's kicking voodoo that, we've, like, for almost a decade suffered under. But hey, I'm going to be the first person to go to the mat for Adam Griffith. I mean, you talk about a story, and there's, yes, that one kick. But even he said he didn't know it was a meme until, like, the middle of the next year. Like, oh, okay, how nice for them. But to focus on the here and now, we are gonna miss Will Reichert in ways that I don't think we even understand yet when he graduates. So I say, if you're listening, Regents at the University of Alabama, keep denying him the last 3 credits, please.
I was going to say, Reichert's got that extra year in his back pocket too, right?
Enroll him in a typing class, something. But yeah, I think you're right. I think he does, but I really, really like that about Reichert.
Make sure we get some good NIL deals for this guy. Keep him out of the league for a bit.
Yeah. Will, you could go to the NFL and make $900,000 a year, but there's a used car dealership here in Tuscaloosa that would love to use your image.
And you haven't even tapped the Jasper market.
They might even throw in a charger.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, guys. This is a quality podcast breaking down special team snappers. You don't get that kind of content anywhere else.
Yeah. No kidding. I didn't even know we had special team snappers. I'm kind of embarrassed to even say that. But yeah, that's the standard you get, folks. You get.
And Eric never talks about that. Never. Why not, Eric? Come on.
Yeah, Eric.
I do special teams. That's what I do best in film breakdowns. If you ever want long snapper breakdowns and punters and kickers, that's my domain.
Well, good. If push comes to shove, we'll tap that well. Now, folks, believe it or not, other football games were played yesterday, and for the sake of our sanity, so we don't continue this broadcast nervous breakdown, let's take a look. Then I'm going to put the ticker up for the top 25. But I'm just, I was going to save this for later, but I gotta get this out. Probably the best non-stressful game that ran yesterday. Most of you folks, I would guarantee, at least if you're over on the East Coast like I am, probably did not see, and that was Fresno State, UCLA. Fresno State came in and they played absolutely lights out football like it was the last football game that was ever going to be played. UCLA played a great game too. All right. And I'm only bringing this up. I mean, if this was just, if this was, I don't know, Gonzaga, I don't even know if they have a football team. Chico State versus Gonzaga, I wouldn't bother, but UCLA is ranked. So before I could go to bed at well after 2:30 this morning, I had to wait for the UCLA game to finish so I could put it in the ticker. And watching the game cast on ESPN, which is kind of it's not exactly exciting, but at least it's interesting because you can get a feel for what's going on. UCLA scored very late in the fourth quarter to what seemed like a putting it away TD. They went ahead of Fresno State. And 51 seconds left. Folks, I'm here to tell you, I saw Fresno State mount a 6-play, 75-yard, and this is the big one, 40-second drive to get the go-ahead winning TD in that game. Let that sink in for a minute.
Yeah, that I was sleeping, so but I will definitely go back and watch the ending of that game just to see what you're talking about, because it sounds like, I mean, that's what, 6 seconds of play, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so did they have any misses? Was it a 100% successful plays
It
every
was
time?
12.5-yard tosses, no incompletions. Bam, 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 TD.
Wow.
It was... I think Fresno State could have beaten Alabama yesterday the way they played football in that last... Not even minute. I mean, not even minute. I mean, that was, to quote the late great Keith Jackson, that was a barn burner of a game yesterday. And it was on late at night. And I've told this story about my dad's love of college football. Like Saturdays, Pop and I would watch a game just to have a football game to watch at weird hours of the night. And that was one of those games that you just put on just because you want one more football game to watch. And it was just a joyous game to sit back and catch some great plays, some great highlights. I recommend you check it out. But looking at the top 25 here, and I'm, of course, I don't have my. Looking at the top 25. So we had Bama, Florida, the less said, the better. Let's move on. Georgia, 40-13 over South Carolina. Is Georgia's that good? No, Georgia's not back. Sorry. Nebraska, Oklahoma, 23-16.
Really, Oklahoma? Really?
Yeah.
It's Nebraska.
No.
Yeah. I don't know what they do out there in the West, Midwest. So whatever, however you guys do it. Oklahoma, you sure you want to be in the SEC? Oregon 48, Stony Brook. I guess they got to punch a community college in the face for 4 quarters of football.
Yeah, I wasn't aware Stony Brook played football. They're part of the New York City University system, aren't they?
The CAA.
Okay.
Which I don't. They're ranked 8th in the CAA. So take away from that what you will. Kent State 7, Iowa State 30. I'm sorry. Clemson. Oh, no. I can get it out. I promise. Clemson 14, Georgia Tech 8.
I got a lot to say about this game, though. Like, DK Uiagalelei has 304 passing yards and no touchdowns in the 2 FBS games. So, I mean, the thing is, not only... Okay, so I'm going to go through the sequence because it's ridiculous. I mean, there was the lightning delay. I realize it was 2 hours, but my God. So, Clemson needed a 4th down stop after they lost an onside kick. And then Clemson got a safety against them, so Wake Forest had a couple chances to throw the ball down the field for the win. I mean, that's... How does this happen? Like, how? Like, I mean, this is... Like, DK Uiagalelei had over 400 yards in the Notre Dame loss last year. And then this year, he's looking like he doesn't even belong in the ACC. Like this guy looks like he belongs like with James Madison or something. Like, jeez.
He's drinking too much Dr. Pepper is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean,
is
that
Clemson
was
banned with all the talent that's been stolen from or something? Like, what's the deal there?
that was prime Clemsoning. That was absolutely prime Clemsoning. They Clemsoned harder than I have seen them Clemson and still not lose a game ever. I mean, that is a baseball score. That is a Mariners Braves score right there. Good God. Texas and A&M. I'm sorry. Did you have something else, Jeff? Texas A&M, who
not that.
A&M 34, New Mexico 0. If Texas doesn't scare you right now with the way Alabama played, you are asleep. Cincy continues to look pretty good, 38-24. Now, Cincy did have to grind that out. They did not come out dominating.
Yeah, they didn't look great early on. That was one of the early games that I watched, and so I expect Cincy to be favored over Notre Dame next week.
Good.
Is it? That is next week, right?
I hate the Domers. Moving on. While we're on the subject of fake teams, Ohio State, really, guys? And it's very easy to say, look, Bill, this is garbage time crap. Don't even. I would say that's halfway to a struggle win for Ohio State. I mean, Tulsa played a lot better, I think, than those numbers show. And Ohio State, y'all are on notice. Okay? You got into the playoffs last season when you shouldn't have been there by playing 8 games against nobodies. No, it wasn't even 8 games, was it? Was it 6?
It was 6.
Yeah, 6. I mean, high school football teams have tougher schedules than Ohio State did.
I'm never going to complain about that because it was a lot of fun watching them get blown out of the water by Alabama.
Granted. So yeah, Ohio State, don't think you've earned that 9. You haven't. Now here's a game where I was literally rooting for Giant Meteor for reasons I've gone into, and they're extremely unpleasant, so I won't. I'll just mention the score and let you guys do any takeaway on it. Number 10, Penn State 28, FAU, Auburn 20.
So I will repeat what my wife told me, and she's an Auburn girl.
Oh,
she
no.
looked at me and said,
Oh, no.
She looked at me and said, Bo Nix is the worst quarterback that we've ever had.
Oh my gosh!
Where's the crawl? Did nobody mention the crawl that we had up?
Oh yeah, so I'll put this up just real quick here. PETA is protesting Auburn quarterback Bo Nix. They say his passes are cruel to worms. That was Gurley's.
I'm weirdly proud of that.
You should be proud of that. That's a good one.
Yeah. Kudos to James Franklin for punting on 3rd down, though. Bob would be proud.
Yeah.
Bill O'Brien sent him a letter of congratulations this morning.
I would say Bill O'Brien is the last time I think a team's actually done that. So, got a load of this is great. So it's got a Bama connection and Florida connection. So the last time I think a team punted on 3rd down, NFL or college, was the Patriots against the Broncos in the 2011 divisional game, and that was Tom Brady. And Bill O'Brien was defensive coordinator, and Denver's quarterback was Tim Tebow. Yeah.
Wow. Talk about pulling that together. Notre Dame 27, Purdue 13. Notre Dame, you're not as, no.
Did Purdue get to bring their big drum onto the field, or? I mean, that was a thing, right?
Shit, sorry.
No, so that was one of the blurbs in the pregame shows was like Notre Dame refused to let bring the drum through the tunnel. But then they showed like a picture of a truck hauling the drum to South Bend. So I don't know if they ever got it on there because I can't be bothered to watch Notre Dame. So
Yeah, no,
I found out from someone what happened. So they wouldn't allow it through the security tunnel after all that. They got it there, but they wouldn't allow it through, which is hilarious.
I mean, what? I guess it was important to them.
Now, had it been a cherry picker for filming, there would have been more of them.
Oh, wow, wow.
Too soon.
Oh gosh. So Fresno State, UCLA. I've already waxed on about that. Jess, you said there was something Fresno State, something about the Fresno State game. You had said in the pre-show that had an Alabama tie to it, and I don't remember the deets.
Exactly. So it's great. So Alabama allowed 244 yards on the ground yesterday, right? Which is, oh God. So the team with the most wins when allowing at least that many rushing yards since 2000 with 17 is Fresno State.
Huh. Well,
It works
all
for
right.
them.
It works for them.
My
14
big
go ahead.
My
No,
big
no.
takeaway from this: Fresno State has beaten the team that blew out LSU.
Yeah,
It's important to remember this.
it really is.
I not just beat LSU, made them quit.
Yes, LSU's asses should always be made to quit, and UCLA did it in grand style, but they lost an honorable fight to Fresno State. It was a quality win. It was it was a quality loss rather for UCLA. I think, just my opinion. But again,
I feel like we should swap Texas for Fresno State.
I'm okay with that. I mean, since
I
we're
got
apparent.
that's part of. So, I mean, I want to have you go through the top 25, and then I'll get random stuff around the league, if you don't mind. I don't want to be rude.
No, that's okay. So let's see. Iowa 48, UNLV 3. VT lost to West Virginia, 21-27. Coastal Carolina is nipping at the heels. Coastal Carolina 28, Buffalo 25. I didn't know the Bills had fallen down that far. Tulane 21. I'm sorry, Ole Miss 61. Yow. Tulane 21. Arizona State 17. BYU 27. They're both ranked. That's 19 Arizona State, 23 BYU. Arkansas ran a train over Georgia Southern. It's number 20 Arkansas 45, Georgia Southern 10. North Carolina 59, VMI 39. Oh, Miami. Bye-bye. We won't be talking about you for the rest of the season. Miami, number 24, Miami 17, Michigan State 38. And finally, rounding it out, another Michigan won handily over Northern Illinois. Michigan, number 25, 63, NIU 10.
I'm going to tell you what. Michigan State is looking like an underdog to win that conference.
I think they could do it. I see no reason why they couldn't firm up and win that conference.
So Michigan State in the playoffs
Again?
Against Alabama? What could go wrong?
Yeah.
All right. I got a few things around the league here. This will be fun. It's quick too. So UConn scored its first points against an FBS team on its 34th drive of the year against Army. So they did actually cover the spread. I mean, the 33 drives without a point before that, though. 21 points, 6 turnovers on downs, 2 picks, 2 half times, 1 fumble, and a missed field goal. And 14 different players rushed the ball for Army in that game. They ran it 67 times for 397. But their leading rusher had only 84 yards. That's Tyrell Robinson. And they completed all 3 passes for 107 yards. So Army has rushed the ball exactly 67 times in all 3 games this year. There's only been one other team since 2000 to have exactly 67 rushes in 3 or more games. That was in 2016, and well, as you might expect, it is Army. So North Carolina and Virginia combined for 98 points and 1,273 yards in a 59-39 Tar Heel win. So according to Tar Heel Sports Matters, this is the first time they've had a 200-yard receiver who's Josh Downs and a 100-yard rusher. Ty Chandler and Sam Howell both had it. And ESPN's Brian Ives said Howell has joined Lamar Jackson as the only Power 5 quarterbacks to pass for 500 yards and run for 100 in consecutive games since at least 2004. Virginia quarterback Brennan Armstrong had 554 passing yards. That's the third most in the ACC in conference and an ACC game in conference history. And he has 959 over the past few games. Look out, Clemson's got to be careful about this stuff. So Colorado only had 63 total yards and a 30-0 loss to Minnesota. That is 82 passing yards and minus 19 rushing yards, which includes 4 sacks. 63 total yards is the fewest by an FBS team since Kansas had 21 against TCU in 2017. It's the fewest by Colorado since they had 46 against Oklahoma in the 2004 Big 12 championship game. And through 3 games, Colorado only has 273 passing yards. Baylor this year, they passed their entire 2020 rushing total in less than 3 games this year. They had 813 last year. They have 970 this year. 3-0 after 2-7 last season. Nice rebound. Nice work, Dave Aranda. So Mel Tucker, we're talking about Michigan State. 3 of his 5 are actually against top 25 teams. Obviously, you had Miami, but you had number 13 Michigan last year and number 8 Northwestern last year. 30 points in 3 consecutive games for the Spartans is the first time since they've done that since 2005, and they did that 4 times in a row then, which is very impressive. Florida State 0-3 for the first time since 1976, which was Bobby Bowden's first season. Memphis and Mississippi State, aside from the fact of the return that shouldn't have been counted, how about the fact that the Tigers didn't run a play until there was 3:15 left in the first quarter, and they actually led it 7-3. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But you know what's also crazy? The Pac-12 after dark, always, and we always miss these, but it's fun. USC, California, and Wazoo had 3 turnovers in the span of 4 offensive snaps. I mean, third quarter. USC throws an interception and a drive. Okay, whatever. It's a pick. 2 plays later, Wazoo sacked and fumbled in the end zone. Trojan touchdown. After the kickoff, Wazoo throws in a pick of its own. And USC won in the quarter in total 28-0. So Washington State actually held a 14-point lead against the Trojans for the first time in 21 years, and that was according to the Fox Sports broadcasts. We're talking about teams that are surprising against the Pac-12. We talk about Fresno State. How about San Diego State? They were 7-2 against the Pac-12 since 2016. That's 2-0 this year against consecutive wins against Arizona and Utah. And they're going to play 2 Pac-12 opponents for each of the next 5 years, so that's always encouraging when you look at history. Now we're going to get to really some more obscure stuff because Louisiana Monroe, they ended a 12-game losing streak that goes back to 2019 with a 12-7 win against Jackson State. Warhawks did not have a lead last year. I don't think a lot of people realize how bad they were in addition to being 0-10. Incarnate Word and Texas State and Northern Arizona beat Arizona for the 9th and 10th FCS wins against FBS teams this year. That is already tied for the most since 2013 when there were 16. Matt Corral, this guy scares me. I mean, my God, that's going to be an interesting game in a few weeks. He became the first player in SEC history with 3 passing touchdowns and 4 rushing touchdowns in a game. There's only been one other FBS player to do that since 2000, and that was K-State's Colin Klein against West Virginia in 2012. Ole Miss had 707 total yards in the game, the second time in 13 under Lane Kiffin that they've reached that mark, as well as the 6th game that they've reached 600 total yards. 41 first downs in that game actually matches the SEC record in a single game, which was Missouri in 2016 against Tennessee. Presbyterian, you might know of them, aside from being the church school, about the school that never punts. But they actually did. They were down 4th and 22 at their own 2, and they actually punted. Yes, they won their first 2, 84, 43, and 68-3, 13 onside kicks, 9 fourth downs. But, they had to punt this time because the odds were finally, not good enough to actually go for it and being down that much ultimately. But once again, it was a crazy Saturday, and this is what we live for. And thanks for sitting through all that. I do appreciate it.
Hey, no worries. And you're absolutely right. This is what we live for. You know, I have said for years, I believe this is true. I pretty much gave up on the NFL, the not for long games for reasons that are a whole meltdown by themselves. But I think college has a better product because where do you see such zaniness? You know, this is a bunch of little mom and pop delicatessens versus a chain of McDonald's stretching from sea to sea.
Yeah, I agree. I was sitting on the couch watching the Bama game with my daughter and my youngest son, and the Bama game was over, and my daughter said, "So are we going to sit here and watch football for the next 12 hours?" And I said, "And the 12 after that, if it's still on."
I watch the NFL, but college to me is, I mean, by far the more superior product, like by a lot. You have more creativity about what you can do because players have less defined roles, and you see more chaos, and you have more sense of community, and you have more sense of family. I think the McDonald's comparison is perfect. It's the corporate conglomeration versus the family-run business. I know what I'm going to.
Yeah, I mean, I've joked about this, but it's absolutely true, and that is, you know, college football are kids who the months before you see them in a lot of cases were in high school, you know, doing high school things. And it's almost a tragedy that when they step up to the NFL level, I mean, you know, you get a fresh-faced kids. This is an apocryphal thing, but I'm sure this has played out many, many, many times over decades of football. You get a kid who, in a very brief span of his life, has gone from girls, cars, football to, okay, football, college. And then he steps up in the NFL and, you know, he's got a smile on his face and a song in his heart. And he takes that first snap, or, you know, there's that first whistle, and he just gets absolutely steamrolled by some guy who's in his early 40s, who's on divorce number 4, is addicted to OxyContin, had a little grass prior to the game, weighs 408 pounds, has a blown knee, makes $900,000 a year, most of which goes to child support, and he just doesn't give a fuck about you. Pardon my language. He just doesn't give a damn about you or your sunshine attitude. And if he drops his shoulder and ruins your life right then, right there, and, you know, you got to have your hip wired back together or something awful like that, it's all the same to him. And to me, that's not football. You know, that's not enjoyable to me. I would rather sit and watch. I'd rather be up at 2:00 in the morning prepping this stream, watching UCLA and Fresno State than the scenario I just described. So that's a little hangover 123 philosophy for you there. And you can take that to the bank.
Well, I think it's well said. I can't speak for everybody else, but I know it represents how I feel about a lot of these things. I'll just watch football because I love the strategy. But man, Saturdays are king. Because I tell you, I started a job a few weeks ago, and like, yo, you go your first Saturday or Sunday? Oh, Saturday. Bama football and college football, easy one.
Yeah. Without a doubt. Unfortunately, I'm the only college football fan in the house, and I am absolutely the only Alabama football fan in the house. My youngest daughter will. It's an internet meme, but it's a joke. But she'll stick her head back in the den, or if I'm in my office watching on like CBS has a lovely free streaming method for the SEC on CBS, she'll dip back sometimes and say, "Are we winning, Dad?" Yeah, hon, we're winning. But no, that's just the way I feel about the game, about the sport of college football, and I feel like it's wholly separate from an NFL game.
It is like a different game. I mean, a lot of my are NFL fans. They call themselves NFL fans, but they're not football fans, right? They're just the fan of the team that happens to be in this close to the city where they live. So it's yeah, I agree with you guys. Saturday is the best day.
And you touch on something
And
else
I'd love
interesting.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry. You're a little choppy there. What was that, Jess?
I was just saying, go ahead. I don't want to cut you off.
Oh, okay. No, I was just going to say, though, that there's towns that are really not much more than wide spaces in the road that get to go out and watch high caliber football. They've got teams to root for. And look at the gargantuan, just the titanic efforts required to get an NFL team in your state. I mean, I would. I'll just go on record. Y'all can quote me on this. I would hate to see an NFL team in Alabama, but I know there's people who'd love it. But those same people, at least they have one high quality and one other college team. Well, multiple college teams, but one very high quality team to root for in their state. If their minds are right, they root for them. But you think about the little markets, and that's something else. Like, hey, I live in Florida, and Tampa and Miami are playing. That classic clash. Yeah, well, we're going to show you Buffalo and Indianapolis. But I live 60 miles from Tampa. Yeah, well, you should have gone to Tampa if you wanted to watch the game, shouldn't you have? Okay. Whereas I can dial up any college game I want. With to a greater or lesser extent. But I don't have to suffer through that nonsense to watch the games that I want to enjoy.
Well, I can say I actually lived in Pittsburgh for about a year and a half during the last days of Three Rivers Stadium, and I actually got to go watch a Steelers game, Steelers versus Titans in Three Rivers. You live there and you pick up the excitement, and I get it. I mean, it was a lot of fun going to a Steelers game and just getting all that excitement. Yeah, those fans are nuts, man. I mean, absolutely nuts. You don't walk. I mean, you walk in there without colors at an Alabama game. Everybody's, oh, that's nice. You can wear whatever. But you go to a Steelers game and you're not wearing the black and gold. You ever been to a football game before? I mean, they're like looking at you really weird. Like, what's this guy doing? And if you're not yelling when the other offense has the ball, especially on a third down, they're like yelling at you, get in the game, man. I mean, they're into it, and it's a lot of fun. And I'm a little over the NFL, but I still have to go back and watch the Steelers.
It's
totally
further around here for sure, because I'm in New England. They're the heart of Yankee go. So it was like, oh, I like football, but they really just like the success, which is like, okay. So a problem when you're up games up here, they will tell you to sit down comparatively to Pittsburgh, if like because people want to see the game, even if you're like trying to get into the game. Like, I mean, obviously there's some very good diehard people who I do film work with for analyzing prospects in the NFL and stuff, but it's just really frustrating around here because people just don't get football. It's more a destination, I'd say, at large to be seen rather to enjoy the game. And it's like, oh, that's not a good way to be.
That may be because New York's teams are in New Jersey, and they're there to see and be seen, kind of like going to a Dodgers game, or going to a game in Los Angeles is the same way. Nobody shows up for the beginning of the game. Everybody shows up late because it's just a party. But yeah, I mean, you go to those Midwestern teams: Cleveland, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Chicago. They're nuts and they're crazy, and as long as you're not an opponent for the opposing side, it's a lot of fun. It really is. The beer flows like the urine later. Lots of drinking.
Yeah, I have been in Pittsburgh once for like a 72-hour period. Now, my wife and her family are Steelers fans. And sure, why not? But they have weird blue laws in Pittsburgh. Like, you can't just go buy a 6-pack of beer at the corner store. And that's just like...
Yeah, you have to buy a case from a distributor or whatnot. You can't go to the grocery store. That is definitely weird.
But they sell hard liquor in grocery stores. It's like I can buy as much wine and
yeah, I've ran into that a few times at different places in my travels, and I thought, well, this is weird. I can buy wine, but I can't buy beer. And then there was this one little convenience store that was one building, and there was a door between the convenience store and the liquor store, but the door was inside between the two. It was owned by the same two people. It was literally just one business with a wall separating them. Mm-hmm. And the counter was a single counter that ran between the two, and just with a register on each side. They're like, oh, you want beer? Go through that door, ring it up over there. It was strange.
Yeah, you could not buy beer in quantities of less than a case, which is weird if you're trying to keep people from getting drunk.
Yeah, it was really strange. Now, my father-in-law knew this. We actually sought out a bar in downtown Pittsburgh. We found a bar. You can go into bars and buy beers, like bottles of beer, and then take them out. But of course, they're the price of well drinks. So, like, we were drinking Iron City and Michelob and paying like $3.50 a piece
for an Iron City.
Yeah, for just not good beer.
That's a 50-cent beer.
Yeah. But anyway, lest our audience fall asleep, guys, Southern Miss Golden Eagles next week. Round the table. Gurley, what do you got? Southern Miss Golden Eagles next week.
I'm hoping we use this as a chance to improve and focus and get the offensive line cohesive and work on our tackling.
Jessica?
Yeah, I'm just really hoping at this point that you get some cohesion worked out. Maybe you try Owens in the middle. Maybe you try George. Maybe you try Latham. Even if they don't work out, you should probably have a lead big enough where you can experiment with that. You maybe try a little bit, not even exotic stuff, but show a little bit of 12 personnel on tape. I'd like to see some better pressure from the defensive line. I feel like they're not getting enough blame for what happened yesterday. Consistently over the middle, the B gap was being gashed and abused by their center. I just want to see more fundamentals and just more smart plays, less false starts. I know it'll be at home, but just show me the little things. I think they can do that. And maybe say Will Anderson. The guy's getting really gassed. He shouldn't have to do all of this work. He needs to be tipped up for Ole Miss in a few weeks.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Gurley, you had something else to say? I cut you off.
No, I've got to see improvement, and I agree. I think there probably is going to be some shuffling done on the offensive line this next week. Defense, they've got to be more physical. They've got to get a lot more 3 and out. They've got to get a 3 and out We haven't seen that in a while.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. And I'm going to tell you something. USM has a young man, Frank Gore Jr., 55 carries, 274 yards, and a TD this season. If Bama doesn't get its shit together, look, I don't think we're going to lose. I don't think this is a trap game, knock on wood. But we could get our asses embarrassed if we try and sleepwalk on this game. You know, it could be tricky if they study that Florida game film and start running plays out of, you know, Pat Dye's playbook on us. Then, you know, we could get frustrated. KB, what do you got?
I've done zero scouting of Southern Miss, so I really disagree with the other guys. I just want to see some improvement in the fundamentals of things like tackling and covering the pitch man. And I hope no one gets hurt, and I hope both teams have fun.
Yeah. Tim Jones, that's the name I want to look out for. So Tim Jones is a guy who I think is underrated. He's a little bit slight in frame, but he has a very good catch radius, so you need to be able to defend him well all the way around. I want to see good positioning. By probably Josh W. will get him to be physical a little bit with him and slow him down a little bit.
Yeah. I am going to have to do some homework on these guys. That is Southern Miss, obviously. It could be a tricky game, and honestly, if they come out and put a against Mercer performance, then the following weeks are not going to go well for us, because we've got a hell of a hill to climb. USM. Look, nothing's a fait accompli at this point. Nothing's a foregone conclusion at this point. But week after next, we've got Ole Miss. We got a resurgent, dangerous Ole Miss. Then we have Texas A&M. Then we have Mississippi State. The foot doesn't come off the gas until Tennessee, and I don't know. It's 4 games, and we gotta stay processed and concentrate on the next game and not worry about Tennessee in late October and LSU in early November. But guys, there's some concerns there, and I don't think they're all out on the field. I think, honestly, I keep beating on this drum, but I'm not turning it over in my head. I'm not coming up with any answers. How does Golding not defend against just a very simplistic offensive scheme like Florida ran? I mean, how does yesterday happen, and how do you fix it? And yeah, hashtag fire Golding. Okay, I get it, but realistically, how do you fix that? And looking at this murderer's row of teams we're facing after USM, it's not going to be pretty. I hate to be doom and gloom, guys, but I'll put it out there. Do y'all see anything? I mean, is there a silver lining out there? Jess is usually the one who can bring us some. Hey, look at break it down.
So I do have some good news about this thing. Yeah,
Okay.
I would say, so Tim Jones left. I do want to correct myself. He signed a UDFA deal with Jacksonville. But no, so I think they're going to bring in bigger boxes if they see that. And my concern with what I saw from Golding this week is fixable. They sort of, so much that they were concerned about the pass. They shouldn't have been. They should have been concerned about the run. And the fact is that everybody else looks flawed right now, but who else would you expect to be really making those kinds of improvements with the coaching and the player personnel, above all else, the players, to make those changes over the next few weeks? I think there's nobody else I would really rather take and expect to go to that next level right now. I think the schemes are going to be able to find themselves well enough because Bill O'Brien has not really done coaching in college for a long time. Marone really hasn't either. These guys have been doing NFL level stuff, which really does not work as well in college. But this stuff takes time. The players count, the skills count most there. But don't you think that I said it last week, a no line takes a month to gel. Don't you think that if you had to pick any team, even if you take away who you support aside, I think you would take Alabama over like a Clemson or like an Ohio State to rebound and rejoin and really be where it needs to be. Sometimes these teams aren't always the cleanest. Like I look at 2015, that was not a pretty team to start the year, right? And it eventually came. I mean, granted, that a lot of that changed when they changed to Cobra. They're not going to really switch to a Milrow or Tyson in this case. But I think it's a matter of time here. And I said it earlier, this is not a finished product, and we expect it to be a finished product every single week. Sometimes not all the ingredients are there. Sometimes you have to bring them in. Sometimes you have to bake things. Sometimes you can't serve the dish cold. I think it's a matter of time, and that's what gives me hope. There's too much talent on every single side of the ball for this to really continue. It looks rough now, but sometimes you gotta see the darkness before the light. I think we'll see that light sooner than later.
Gurley, what do you think? USM Alabama tomorrow. Anything else?
One thing that I have been impressed with the Alabama offense, it has not been explosive, but it has been methodical and within the context of those scoring drives, been very consistent. One of my knocks about the offense with Tua, and this is not necessarily Tua's fault, but if it wasn't explosive, if he had to grind out a drive, there would usually be a breakdown somewhere, and they would have a hard time scoring. So Clemson's game plan against him worked very well because we couldn't sustain long drives. We're sustaining long drives. I mean, they are very methodical about in those drives, and that means we're being consistent in certain areas, and I like that. I just wish we could be a little bit more explosive.
Fair enough. I guess I'm kind of in the same seat as the rest of you guys. I feel like nobody get hurt, please, on either squad. That's something, and I'll come back around to this.
I mean, if HTT is banged up, and if Will Anderson needs the rest, give him the rest. I mean, maybe if Bill O'Brien is going to call an offensive game from 1982, then maybe Saban can pull a bear and start the second team on defense. I don't, rest the guys that need the rest, because I don't think we're looking at a situation where you have to. I think it's more important for the guys to be healthy for Ole Miss than it is for them to get the reps against Southern Miss on defense. The offensive line, you need to start your starters, and they need to gel and figure out a combination that works. But if our defensive guys are banged up, they need the rest.
I absolutely agree. Just let guys that need to rest, and I fully expect to see Milrow and Tyson out next Saturday. I slipped up and said the game tomorrow, but y'all know what I meant. But yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I think starting second string defense maybe wouldn't suck. If nothing else, give those guys some reps, right? All right. Well, does anybody have any highlights? Any stuff, Bama, not Bama, game wise? Anything happening fun on your radar?
I have a completely non-football story. Of course, it's about my daughter. She's 4.
Okay.
She came up to me. We had lots and lots of rain up here yesterday, flooding and all that. So she did the most Alabama thing ever. She came over to me, Daddy, we're having a tornado morning. We weren't having a tornado morning. It was just rain.
A tornado morning. That's adorable.
Yes, yes. I agree, and I'm not biased at all.
Right.
She is the cutest thing ever.
So mine is that Air Force lost to Utah State yesterday, and so that's the 49-45. Of course, Army law. They did beat the crap out of Navy, so they're still in first place for the Commanders Cup. That's my non-Alabama stuff.
Jess, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I'm just excited. So next week I'm actually going to be up and seeing a baseball game. So I'm going to try to juggle that because the baseball game's at 4. I'm going to try to juggle that and the Tide at once because I'm on a little weekend retreat on my behalf because I kind of need it because my work's kind of stressful. It's going to be fun. I kind of needed to get away, and I love all the stories of everybody here. I just want to thank y'all because, we've said before here, like, I'm the only person around here who knows what the SEC stands for when it doesn't stand for Securities and Exchange Commission. So, I mean, that's just a great thing. And to have it with all y'all at the Tide is just, honestly, it's just so calming, and I really appreciate everybody. And thank you for having me.
Oh, no worries. I mean, you raised the football IQ of this program probably by 40 points.
At least.
Yeah.
I am disappointed you haven't tried to explain Cover 7 yet, but we'll let that go for now.
I can do that next time. I have a full guide that I've written on Saban's defenses. So
so we're gonna start a Patreon for the show, and then when we get to enough money, we're gonna buy you a digital whiteboard so you can draw up plays and stuff for us.
Exactly. Yeah. They have Saban do that where he describes the buzz coverage and everything. Yeah, we'll have some fun with that. We'll buy a smart board. Yeah.
Yeah, I would not hate to discuss some more X's and O's next week, but
brief thing, if you don't mind, one last thing. Sorry, it just came to me. So if you are in the Robama Roll Discord, the official one, because there are two, they're both really great. I suggest you join them. But in the official one, there's going to be hopefully a film breakdown of the Florida game this Tuesday. Sometime that night, I will be going over various plays and why they were won, why they were lost, and anything you want me to look at, provided I can find the film, shouldn't be too hard, is up for fair game. We're gonna have a voice chat with screen share and everything, so it's gonna be fun.
I look forward to that. I'm really looking forward to that. So I think that will do it for the day. I really want to thank KB for the opening credits for the show. They're awesome. They're great, and I have to tell a funny story to wrap up. So my initial thought, and Jess and I were on the same sheet of music when I said, hey, we should have an opening crawl for the show, And she said, yeah, something with like Yay Alabama behind it. I said, yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. This montage, and you got, great shots of Alabama superstars on the beats and everything. And we'll cut it down so you guys don't want to watch like 2 minutes of 2 minutes of montage before the streams, or maybe you do. I don't know. You guys will just have to make comments. You'll have to engage us and let us know. But anyway, so we decided on doing this, and so I pulled together some photos from around the web and sent them off to KB, who did just a great job. Took my crazy ideas, and I used a YouTube scraper to get Yay Alabama as performed by the $1 Million Band. And he put it together, and it's the channel trailer, and you can go watch it. And the minute I uploaded it, YouTube said, hey, this belongs to the $1 Million Band, so that's a copyright strike, but you can use it anyway. So as it happens, Yay Alabama is still copyrighted until sometime this year. And the $1 Million Band version, of course, will belong to them in perpetuity. That's why we have the NFL Films sort of dramatic cinematic music behind the credits on the stream, but the channel trailer has EA Alabama. Because if I put the credits on the stream with EA Alabama, if we monetize every time we play a video, the money would just get taken away from us. It would go right out the door like, ooh, look what you could have had, you know, like the guy with the fishing rod and the dollar bill. Up, you almost got it. But KB did a really fantastic job on the credits, and I thank you so much for that. It's really a nice piece of work. So big props to KB. He gets the elephant stomp for this week. That's my elephant stomp moment. KB's credits.
Okay. So I got to say that I just used a template and stuck the pictures in there.
No. Don't you denigrate your skill set, sir. Don't you? Oh, it was just the nothing. It's nothing. Don't do that. That's my job. But anyway, no, it's a great job. I hope you guys like the credits. I love them. And so that's what we'll be using going forward. Maybe I'll change up the pictures a little bit and make KB do even more editing work.
Yep, we could do that for sure. You should roll it for the outro this time as well.
What do you think, guys? Around the table, what do you think? Should I roll the credits again for the outro?
I think that's a great idea.
I'm here for that. They're so good.
All right, folks, have an absolutely wonderful week. Roll damn Tide. We'll see you all next week after hopefully a victory over USM. And that's all I got. Take care.